session meeting of the Mayor and Common Council of the Borough of Flemington for Monday, February 25th. This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Councilman Swingle?
Here.
Councilman Valella?
Here.
Councilwoman Fine? Here. Councilman Gorman?
Away tonight.
Councilman Novick?
Here.
Councilman Griner?
Here.
Okay.
Here.
And,
Mayor Edwards? She's here.
Okay, all right, so our item for work session discussion tonight is an update on 9100 Main Street led by Councilman Valella.
Okay, thank you. And again, I apologize that this is on my laptop, but I'll do the best I can to explain all of this so people understand where we're at this point. And I promise that I will make copies of this and send this to you if you would like to have that. Okay, so I put a couple of slides on here in the beginning, really for the benefit of our two new council members, because we went through this a while ago, right? And the first few slides are a review. The intent of this this update has a lot to do with where we're at right now and where I think the reality is and what maybe we need to consider going forward. Right? So if you noticed here, you can see that the building that we have has 3 floors and a basement, and there's 21,000 square feet, right, in that building itself. Right? Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Okay, so the next slide, and you can see this is the building lot, right? The second floor is actually separated out as a condo. There was that dentist over there, Rogoff, right? And that was a condo, and that's still separated out as a condo, if you remember. The rest of the building, which is the bank, the remaining of the second floor, and the police station and the basement are also a separate unit. So you got the dentist location and everything else is one separate unit, okay? The bank location was separated out on the tax records by our tax assessor, so that is separate, right? Although we're not collecting anything for that right now. Right? One thing you should be aware of is the building has a gas furnace, and the entire building is on one zone. The police department does have a separate HVAC for themselves, right? We put that in last year. And so they have their own heat and their own air conditioning. The bank does also have its own air conditioning unit itself, the bank section. The bank was there, they put that in. But the rest of the building is heated by that one unit, right? So that's going to be something we're going to have to deal with at some point.
Right? Property maintenance officer.
Right. Okay. And in the basement we have 3 secure rooms. We have the big metal doors. I don't know if you've ever been downstairs in the basement. But there's 3 secure rooms there, and we used it. One of those rooms is used by our detectives, and we have all of the evidence that's used in court. And nobody has access to that except the detectives. As a matter of fact, the police chief can't even get to that. All right. So, that's right. I should say. And Michael Ligorano has a right-to-life parking spot in the building. So it's something we talked about last time, if you remember. All right, so where are we at now? Okay. All right, so we've had some interest in this building since we were approached by the Downtown Performing Arts Center. We actually had interest in the building prior to that. Some people have come to us and said, geez, we'd like to look at the building and see it. We showed it to like 5 different people. The Downtown Performing Arts Center came back many times, probably about 6 or 7 times to see the building, and then we got pretty jazzed and excited about that, started mentioning it around town, and we were getting nothing but fabulous feedback from everybody about, boy, wouldn't this be great to have, a performing arts center, if you will, in a theater in town. So we really started to move down that path and thought that was, the most desirable thing to do. It fits in very well with what we're doing in the arts, right, and the culture we're trying to bring to our town. And it would be a great draw to bring people in, and it would be very supportive of what's going on with the project at the hotel, and everything that we're trying to achieve there, or that's trying to be done there. So we moved forward. We had two potential folks looking at that. One thing you should be aware of is the Downtown Performing Arts Center has really been very active trying to do fundraising. Right? They have been working with the bid, and you might have seen some documentation that went out recently from the bid and the Downtown Performing Arts Center to talk about fundraising. So they're really trying hard to generate as many funds as they possibly can. All right?
Are they, when you say that they're doing fundraising, they're attempting to raise money
They're attempting
to lease this from us?
They're
or
attempting to raise money to eventually lease the building and also potentially buy some components of the theater, like the seats, as an example. Right? So one of the things they were talking about when they were talking to some potential buyers of the building on their behalf was that they would, the buyers would build that building and then they would buy some of the, necessary components that go inside of the theater. Right? The other thing that they're doing is that they went and invested some money and they hired Piquel Architecture right here in Flemington to do some of those drawings and designs, and you've seen some of those. I know Lois Stewart is very excited about one of the drawings that was provided, which has that one connecting the two buildings, and yeah, I know you don't like that particular
No,
word.
that's not at 90 Main.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's not 90 Main. I apologize. You're right. Thank you for correcting me. But he's done a really nice job of putting that building together, and it's quite a project that someone would have to undertake to do those designs. But so anyway, there has been a lot of activity as it relates to that. I get calls all the time from the Downtown Performing Arts Center, Jenny Brennan, and it appears that there's a number of folks that are still very active with her, and I know that she's working with Chris periodically. I know that you're on the phone with her quite a bit, so that would be very exciting. So where are we at, though? Well, we had two potential buyers, or she had two potential buyers that were very interested in the building. One of the potential buyers, which was here in town, wanted to buy that building and wanted to build the theater and then lease it back to the Downtown Performing Arts Center on a long-term lease. That was the plan, right? And I think that's why they were also talking about maybe she would be buying certain things like chairs and whatever else you would need in the theater to do that. They went to the bank and investigated getting the money, and it sounded like that it didn't go over very well. So they're kind of at a stalemate right now as it relates to that particular investor in this project.
Phil, this may be a Barry question, but if the borough sells a building like this, maybe Erica can answer with regard to the funding. If the borough sells a building like this, do we need to, take the highest bidder? I mean, do we need to provide?
We looked into that, and it depends on how you do it. If there's a component of the Downtown Performing of the buyer, that's a non-profit. Not-for-profit, I believe the rules change a little bit. But there was also that understanding that we might have to go out to bid for this anyway. Right? So everyone understood that might be one of the things that have to be done. And quite frankly, we still may have to do that, going forward. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is...
You want to try to help this along as much as
Well, I want to help it along as much as possible, and I think the other thing that's really important is that it costs a lot of money when you go out and start doing bids, right? It costs money to start doing that. I mean, it's going to cost, I'm not sure what the number will be, but it's going to cost us a few $1,000s to do this.
Right.
And, before we go ahead and do that and then find out, geez, maybe we really can't sell this building, or we're going to sell it at such a loss it doesn't make much sense, we figured we'd go down this path to see if we can get something a little more solid and have a better feeling as to, what this really can get done. Right? There was another potential buyer who actually has the money to do this, and they have the money themselves to do it. They wouldn't have to go to a bank necessarily and get the money. The issue is that that particular individual would really prefer turning the building into an office park. And maybe build a theater up on the 3rd floor if it made some sense, but they were more interested in buying the building and using it for their own, their own particular business venture, which was really filling those, that building with office sharing and things of that nature. So that's a little less desirable, and I don't think anyone really wants to go down that path if we can avoid doing that. So this has been going on now for about the last month, maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe 6 weeks, and we're at a point now where we really should start looking at doing something else. All right? So I've been asking our CFO if he could give me some information about that building, about how much we currently owe now. We just made our payment, for the debt services in January for this year, for 2013, and he provided me with a schedule as to what we currently have. Now, unfortunately, if I had this up on the list, this is really good information here. What you'll see is this is a debt service breakdown. And we currently owe $775,000. That's what we owe on that building right now. So last year we owed like $860,000 or so on that building, right? So it keeps going down. Now, in 2013, our debt payments, you're going to get a copy of this, was $161,546,000. Each year it goes down. In 2014 it goes down to 157 and change. In 2015 it goes to 152. In 2017 we're down to 144,841. In 2018 we've already now satisfied the debt on the bond. We've paid it off, but we still have a couple of additional loans that were on the on the books. If you remember, we had to get some additional loans that were later on that we were paying back, right? They're non-secured loans, so we have to fill those each year. In 2018, we're down to $24,500. That's what we have to pay every year on that building. So we're not that far away before we can it's only going to cost us $24,000 a year for that building, and it's $24,500 from 2018 right through 2021, and then we're clear. We own the building, we have no more debt on it, and we're done, right? Now, what I did was I took the liberties of kind of just taking those numbers and dividing them by 12, just so we can get an idea of what this costs us on a monthly basis, and there's a reason for that. So from now until 2017, we're anywhere from $13,000 to $12,000 a month. Basically, that's what it's costing us in the payments that we have to make. When we're beyond that, we're at about $2,400 a month. Actually, I'm sorry, $2,045 a month going forward. So there's really not a lot.
Starting from 2018.
18 on, right? So we don't have a lot that's going on there. So why do I say that? Because I did a little more investigation and found out from Bill that in 2005, we passed an ordinance. It's 2005-23, which was an ordinance in the amount of $1.5 million for various building improvements. And so I didn't know we had that. Right? Evidently, we've used that, that money to fix up the police station, to fix up here the Borough Hall, and also the library itself. It turns out that we have $967,000 left in that ordinance that was passed. So, I mean, we don't have to, go float another ordinance on this. We have the money if we wanted to use that. And that's where, we're at this impasse right now, or at least this situation where I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, well, we own the building. We've a lot of public support for this. We've got a willing theater group that wants to come in, albeit they don't have the money to buy the building and fix it, right? But they do have the money to pay us on an ongoing lease for that building. $1 million to borrow. And he says it'll cost us about $80,000 per year to pay that back. All right, so that's about $6,600.
Is that over a 30-year?
That would be over a 30 years, right? And so
if we do that and we take on that additional obligation, then, of course, the principal and interest would kick in. And does that, does anybody know, does that count toward our 2% cap? Do we have to absorb that, or do we somehow get an exemption for that? 'Cause that's pretty key.
Would it be offset by rent?
I believe we absorb that.
I think so.
We have to
Yeah.
absorb that in the
Yeah.
2% cap,
Correct.
right? That
Debt
is-
service, yeah.
Well,
what was the answer?
Robert's right, I mean, eventually, if we got some income from it, that would offset that, yeah,
Right.
but initially.
Yeah.
it did
What's
not.
the short-term impact of that?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody,
Just something to consider.
the original theory when we bought the building was that the original bond was going to be offset by rents and,
Right.
you know,
Of course.
Right.
so we need to be very careful with regard to that,
Well-
especially with 2%.
What was the answer from Rebecca to Bill's question? I couldn't hear what she
She said
I
that it's
believe it's
included in
within
the
the
cap,
Right.
which means we'd have to offset it with something else.
Something else.
Just stay under the cap.
Right. Well, you know, so, anyway, my thinking was is that we would try and offset it with rents. And from what I can tell, I think that we could secure a long-term, lease from someone like the Downtown Performing Arts Center. I know what they're paying, in rents in Lambertville right now.
What about
Yeah, I'd rather not mention it because she told me in confidence, and I really didn't ask for it, but she just told me. But the fact is that we could offset a reasonable amount of this. Right? Now, the other thing that would be so we have, we're going to have to do some financials and see if this really makes sense. But I think it's something to think about, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, and I wanted to have this little session. Is that I need everybody to think about this and come up with some ideas, because the other thing that's good about this, and then I'll be quiet, is that if we do something like that, maybe the third floor where there's the theater itself doesn't have to be dedicated to just one performing arts group. It doesn't have to be dedicated necessarily to the Downtown Performing Arts Center. But let's just say they do rent out the second floor, they would probably want to have preferential treatment, and I think that we would want to do that if they were, in the building. But the fact is there's other performers, there's other groups and stuff that might want to come and use that venue. Right? I mean, recently they did that wind ensemble in the courthouse. I mean, boy, it would be really nice to do that on stage in a nice theater like that. I mean, that would be a great place to do it.
First off,
I'll take questions.
the dentist office,
Yes.
who owns that condo?
We do.
You own the condo unit? So he
Yeah.
sold it to you?
We own everything in that building.
I thought he owned it. How did that happen?
He doesn't own that condo unit. We own that whole building. It was
How did
condoed off.
Yes, but how did we get it back?
We bought that whole building with the condo.
And we were leasing the condo to
And
Borough.
evidently, that's what was going on. I mean, I wasn't around back then in 2000.
No, that's what I think we were doing. is
But we own the condo.
But the condo was before, I didn't think that the building had been separated until after the borough owned it.
To the best of my recollection, there were tenants that were in the building when we bought it. And I believe that the borough had no desire to kick anybody out at that point because they were paying customers. If he didn't want to leave any more than the borough wanted to have them out. We always left the option open at that time that it might be used for something different in the future. I mean, they talked for a while about bringing the court over there. There was talk about bringing, some other borough offices over there, but that never got acted on. But I believe that, it was a mutually beneficial relationship with the dentist paying the borough rent, just like the bank was paying rent, and borough owning the building.
Lois, if I remember correctly, I was told that was condoed off before we bought the building, and then when we bought the building, we bought that and the condo, we bought the whole building.
Well, I would think somebody could find that out.
Absolutely.
Bill
When-
would know.
If Bill doesn't know, we'll find out for sure.
Yeah, he'll know the time.
The other,
So I just want to weigh in here that this is this kind of investment by the town, in my opinion, is exactly what we need to do. And I like this approach because it gives the council control as to what the disposition of the building is going to be. And I think supporting, for this kind of use, supporting the debt it's gotta happen. However, my biggest concern is the ability to
on the tax rate, and you know that this borough, you all have heard me say this before, that this borough is either the lowest per capita income or next to lowest, and we have a large number of older adults in this community, and while they would all, I'm sure, like to see a theater, many of them are unable to absorb the cost for providing that to other people. And so if there's some way that you can figure out how to have somebody else pay the freight, then it would be great. But to saddle the borough taxpayers with an additional tax to provide a source of entertainment for the broader community, I do not think is appropriate. And I just think
No,
that
but,
we have to be...
Okay.
And let me just, in response to Louis, just to say that there has to be a formula where a municipality, county governments, state governments, city governments do provide municipal funding for stadium, for golf courses, for performing arts centers, for parks, and they do. So it's not that they find themselves necessarily in the business of doing that, but it is something that has provided benefit to an area financially by bringing people into the area. And again, the idea of that the borough has extended the redevelopment of the Union Hotel property. That's an investment in a way. We have the BID surcharge. That's an investment in a way, and this in a way is also coming together of a overall plan would be something that we have to seriously take a look at. I think it's a good
But those communities that have those kinds of things have more than 4,500 residents.
That is true.
We are a tiny, tiny town.
Lois, that's why we're going down the path we've been going down. We're trying to see if we could get this done while having someone else do it.
You know,
And
I
it's
think
becoming, it's a real challenge. So we're not saying we're just throwing this up for discussion at this point. The last thing I want to see happen is the building to stay the way it is, and in 2015, it looks the same way.
I hate to quote Einstein, but I will. He said that the definition of insanity is to continue doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I have to say, if you want to change something, you need to change something. This town has been asleep at the switch for 30 years, and what we have on Main Street is a direct result of that. And we need to recognize that there has to be a change. And if it's going to take an investment by this public entity to do that, and we can show that it's going to be beneficial in the form of the way I just spoke about collateral, values going up and more tax revenues generated, that might be the way to go. That might be the approach. And we shouldn't put blinders onto that. And I am an older resident of this town, and I feel that way.
Wow.
So,
No, look,
And bang.
that's right.
But sometimes we have to cut our losses, just like when personal income, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and say, okay,
understand.
we've done that long enough. We're going to sell it, we're going to take what loss, and we're going to put it back on the tax roll and start to make some money off of it and kind of try to
Maybe put it back on the tax rolls and make some money on it. The problem is going to be who's going to buy the building, and who's going to invest the money
What cost?
to fix it up.
But you said
And
you
what
have
cost?
a willing purchaser. You said that.
But I don't know what they're willing to purchase. They're very interested in wanting to buy the building, but I don't know what they're willing to give us for that. They may
Well-
want to give us,
We need to
$100 for the building. We don't know.
We need to find that, I think we need to find that out before you.
Well, I don't think it's appropriate to engage in a discussion with somebody who's interested in buying a building if it has to go out for bid and soliciting or trying and encouraging them to give us, the amount of money they're willing to spend on a building. I don't think that's
Well, it seems
appropriate
to
or
me
how
that-
it should go.
Seems to me we need a lot more information. Do you have to go out to bid or don't you?
If we go out and sell the building itself, we're going to have to go out to bid, yes. There's no doubt we're going to have to do that. If we decide to do something on our own, then we're going to have to go out to bid. It's just something to think about,
Right.
and let me...
And more to come. We'll talk more
Let
about it.
me, well, I think that this should be a community discussion
Right.
too. Let me close in this, that, I'm bringing this up because we need everyone's input. I need help. I mean, I kind of took this on last year when I got building and grounds and with Councilman Hayne and I had this building and I started looking into it and I didn't know the situation and the history behind it in the past, right? And then when I found out the history behind it, I got excited. I said, wow, this is there really could be something that we could do with this building because it really is a cool building and it could be used for such a tremendous purpose in town. But there's a lot of challenges, and as Lois Stewart pointed out, there are challenges too. I mean, that's going to cost money in order to do something. But as Robert pointed out too, I mean,
Not doing something.
there's a price to not doing something too. So I would love to see input on
Can I just add
this.
one more comment? We have already really enabled, to the best of our estimation, a tenant for this building who's going to provide a purpose which is, very attractive and could have a lot of benefit to the town. And it's important that we don't squander it, that we don't squander it, and that we move quickly on this because, how many other towns in our county would love to have this potential tenant?
Right.
And I'd hate to see us lose it to Clinton or Frenchtown or elsewhere.
I agree with you. And let me say this, and I know that we're getting to the end of this. Let me just say this. That individual, that group, is really stepping up their efforts, as I mentioned, to do fundraising and to do other activities that create awareness. And they've been, I've probably received about 7 or 8 emails over the last couple of days saying, there's things going on. So I don't know what that means yet. We'll find out. But, it was something that has to be brought up to this group. And you know, and it needs a lot more thinking on it besides coming from, you know, just me at this point. And I'm opening it up to the community. I really would like to, you know, enter this council and so
Bill?
the body to help us.
The theater group, are they a 501c3 nonprofit?
A portion
I was
of them,
unable to
yes.
find anything on them. I searched
One part
Pennsylvania.
of their business is, another part of their business is not.
Okay, do you know what the name is, what name their 501c3?
That I don't know what the
Or
official name is. I
EIN?
know that they're incorporated as the Downtown Performing Arts Center. I don't know what the 501c component is.
Okay. Because, you know, I searched Pennsylvania and I searched New Jersey, and there is no nonprofit called the Delaware River Performing Arts Center, Delaware, or anything.
Downtown Performing
Or
Arts Center.
Downtown Performing Arts Center. Nothing even close to it. That was a 501c3 in New Jersey or Pennsylvania.
That might be a DBA doing business
Right.
as.
Right.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm very
We'll find
curious,
out.
you know,
Right.
the bid sent out that ask, if, you know, and if that was an actual ask, it was illegal, it didn't have an EIN number on it. And if they're doing fundraising off their website, they don't have an EIN number on their website, it's very suspicious. And I think it's a great idea for a theater, but I think, you know, if they're not a nonprofit, they don't have that ability to raise funds as a nonprofit, we should probably quickly look into another direction.
But they've also been in Hamburg, very long.
So,
A
yeah.
long time, 12 years.
Yeah. I'm gonna, we do need to move on because we have
Okay.
guests
Leslie.
here to
Thank you.
make presentations, but
Thanks,
thank you,
Phil.
Phil, for that. We appreciate it. We look forward to hearing more. I'll accept the motion to adjourn the work session.
Move. Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
So